Well, if you Shaheen him once, you've Shaheen him all. But an unfamiliar opponent meets the Packers this week. Week 11 is up next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Hey Packers fans, this is your unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, and these are the podcasters you're looking for. One of these guys actually kissed the magical 13.5-yard line, and the other guy will challenge you to a game of pinball anytime. And now, it's time to Go Pack Go with your hosts, Wayne Henderson and Troy Heinritz.
This is the Packers Fan Podcast, the show by and for fans of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. Now, things are getting good this season, okay? We need to hear from you for next week's episode, so simply go to PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback and be part of the show. Let your voice be heard, or you can simply pick up your phone and dial +1 920-3-PACK-GO. This is episode 145 of your Packers Fan Podcast, recorded November 15th, 2017, and the show notes, of course, will be at PackersFanPodcast.com/145.
On this week's edition, we'll be talking about the highs and lows of the Week 10 matchup against the Bears. I actually met an interesting Packer fan in an interesting place, so we'll share a little bit about that story. And would you be surprised if we said we were going to have to talk about injuries yet again?
Unfortunately, I would not be surprised. We're going to have to do it. Also, the Packers dope sheet for the Ravens at Packers game has some great stuff for you this week. Troy has the keys to the Packers beating the Ravens, and we've got more brilliant feedback from you, the G-Force. I'm at Wayne Henderson, your voice acting, podcasting part owner of the 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers, and wondering if you are ready to ride the wave.
And glad I did not have to sit outside in the rain all day. I am at Troy Heinritz, your gold ticket package holding part owner of your Green Bay Packers. The Packers Fan Podcast is available on demand and on the go with our free Packers Fan Podcast apps for both iOS and Android. And it comes as no surprise that we beat the Bears, but man, we sure made it easy for them to almost win this game.
Well, considering how the past month has gone, a win is a win, whether it's ugly, gritty, gooey, rainy, sticky. I'll take the win, but yeah, we almost gave that game away, and that would have been a darn shame.
Yeah, especially with how well Brett Hundley played in this game, driving that last drive to get that potential game icing field goal, we'll call it. And when we were already winning, so it wouldn't have been a game-winning field goal, but a game-icing field goal, and then have them miss. It was like, oh, what? You're going to give them a minute left, and then the defense isn't going to be able to stop them? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Craziness. It was very stressful watching that part of the game. Lots of the game was stressful, but there were some high points. Like you said, Brett Hundley, he did very well. Ty Montgomery's touchdown, that's all good stuff. That was the thing
of beauty, man. Busting through that hole. I was like, oh, is that Aaron Jones? No, that's Ty Montgomery.
It was hard to keep track of who was carrying the rock this week.
There was a lot of running backs out there this week. There was a lot of them. But the best one, I think, is the chemistry that's being built between Brett Hundley and Davante Adams. That one-handed catch, oh my goodness.
You can't defend that, at least not very easily. That was another thing of beauty. So great. It's hard to believe that just, 6 weeks ago, we were worried that Davante Adams, his football career was over. And now it's as if it never happened because he's fantastic as always.
And the hip adjustment he had on the touchdown grab where Hundley put it where only he was going to be able to get it. I mean, just the concentration. What an amazing job by Davante in those two grabs this week.
Yeah, cold, rainy weather. It didn't slow down this passing game that we're trying to build up all that much. So that was great to see. I'm hoping for even more back at Lambeau this week.
Yeah, defense stepped up again. Mike Daniels, another good game. Really putting a kibosh on the run for the Bears for the most part. We definitely have some work to do on the pass rush front as well. But, man, I think the best play of the game was John Fox throwing out that red handkerchief. I was like, John Fox, you are a doofus. Why are you throwing it out there? It's like, you know that he's out of bounds already. Just take the ball at the 2 and you'll probably score the touchdown. But you know what? Thanks, pal. You just throw it out there. We'll go ahead and take the ball.
Unbelievable. And his little conniption fit after he found out that what the ruling was, it was just I don't know what it was, but boy, was he animated and was that fun to watch.
Especially when you watched all those Bears fans in the stadium probably losing their minds too. That's why it's important to read the rule book before you play the game.
And it's also important as a wide receiver trying to score a touchdown, don't let go of the ball before you touch the pylon.
More importantly, don't touch the pylon because you should be inside the pylon, because if you didn't know, if you actually are outside of the pylon but your body goes in the inside, that's technically a touchdown. But if you're outside and the ball goes over, as long as you're not in bounds, then it's good. But if you hit the pylon, bad things happen. So don't hit the pylon.
And hang on to the ball. I think that's great advice.
It's a little hard. It was really, really slippery and wet and rainy out there.
Well, that's the way it goes. The Bears being the Bears. And I guess there's a lot of Bears fans that are they're done with John Fox, and it seems like he just got there, so they're all doing something with the Firefox browser.
Firefox browser.
It's like a thing.
That is a dad joke if I ever heard one right there.
No, that's what they're doing. It's a thing. It's a Bears thing.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, all in all, I think it was a pretty interesting game, to say the least, and pretty excited to see that things were moving in the right direction. We still have a little bit of work to do, not quite where we want to be, but it will be. It's a builder. We'll call it that. It's a builder.
Yeah, especially since we were on the road and the weather was bad. You know, we'll just take whatever pluses we can get, Troy.
Absolutely, at this point, because there were some things that weren't so great, like, once again, the injury bug goes ahead and slams us right in the face. Aaron Jones with an MCL is going to be out for quite a bit. And then the continuing saga of our 3rd and short failures. I mean, that opening drive alone right there, that could have been 7 points easily the way we're moving the ball. And then you just have 2 scratch your head moments on 2nd and 3rd down where you're like, why didn't you just throw the ball instead of running the ball on 3rd and 4? It's really confusing how that stuff's coming together.
Yeah, just a lot of head scratching. And I was basically almost pulling my hair out with some of the penalties, especially on special teams. It's like we can't afford to give away these kinds of yards.
Hey, you see this? This is the person's front side. Okay, that's the person's back side. If you see their butt, don't touch them. Simple.
You know, that can apply in many different phases of life.
It sure can. It sure can. And then, the Mike McCarthy, let's go ahead and slow the game down and run the football in the 3rd quarter and just let's see how slowly we can give the game away by not turning on the juice. I was like, just
I don't know why we haven't learned that lesson yet. I feel so fortunate that we won this game.
Yeah, especially after that amazing catch by the Bears over Devon House of all people. That 4th quarter touchdown grab, I was just like, really? It's going to be like Washington all over again?
Please no. Please no.
Brutal stuff. But I think that they have enough game film now on Hundley. I think things are coming together. The thing that you have to remember about Hundley is that when he's playing against these defenses, he's seeing these defenses for the first time.
Right. Yeah.
Rodgers has seen these defenses over and over and over for the last 10 years. So he's got a good idea of what the schemes are going to be. So Hundley being able to pick apart a defense isn't going to happen overnight. But I really did like some of the throws he made, especially that touchdown to Davante. That was an Aaron Rodgers-esque throw right there if I ever saw one.
And considering how last week just seemed so bad and we were questioning whether Hundley would ever be able to throw the ball down the field more than 10, 15 yards and do these things. And all of a sudden, with just 1 week of prep, things were looking so much better. I feel so much better.
Yeah, you have to install it in pieces, and once you get all the pieces in place, and you just kind of let it roll. So hopefully we can see a lot more. Now he's still scrambling backwards a lot of the time instead of stepping up and scrambling forwards or sideways. I mean, there was that one time where he was like running almost 18 yards back before he decided to get rid of the ball, which almost took us out of field goal range. So some mechanics there that still needs to be worked on, but all in all, I think a really good showing for him when you put it into the grand scheme of things.
And if it gets a little bit better each week, who knows? This week at Lambeau Field, maybe he'll throw for 6 or 7 TDs. That'd be nice.
Now we have the greater challenge ahead of us, though, because if you look at the standings and where things are shaping up right now, obviously the Falcons are ahead of us, the Seahawks are ahead of us, the Cowboys are ahead of us, as well as the Vikings and the Lions in the wild card race and all that good fun stuff. So when you take a look at the schedule ahead, the must-win games are going to be, of course, the Lions game, the Vikings game, and the Carolina Panthers game, who are currently ahead of us in the standings, because we need those tiebreakers. We have the tiebreaker over Dallas, so that shouldn't be an issue, which would hopefully leave us, if we're in a wild card situation, looking at something against the Falcons for a tiebreaker scenario. So that means we at least have to win 1, 2, 3 more, which puts us in 8-8, and then we have to win at least 2 more from there. So of the games that are left, Ravens, Buccaneers, Packers, Browns, I definitely think there are 2 wins in those 4 games alone. So 10-6 or 11-5 is still a very good possibility, because if we do not beat the Panthers, Lions, and Vikings, if we don't win all 3 of those games, there is no playoffs this year.
Unless shenanigans happen. But
there have to be some major shenanigans.
It would be best just to take care of things on our own, like you said.
Yeah, I agree.
Carolina game's not going to be easy, though. Even
7 left on the schedule, that would put us at a 12-4 season. If we run the table again,
ride the wave.
I believe was what I had him. Which is believe what I had him picked to be at. So
long before you ever had the horrific imagery of Aaron Rodgers getting injured.
Right.
So, even if Aaron Rodgers is able to come back technically in time for the Carolina game, I don't know if we should play him yet.
And let's be clear, even though Teddy Bridgewater is now practicing and the unofficial backup to Case Keenum of all people, just because he had 1 good game, Case Keenum is technically the hot hand, but I'm sure Case Keenum will just Case Keenum himself out of a job. So the Vikings will still have it implode on their hands eventually.
Right on schedule every year.
Every year. December's around the corner. Merry Christmas, y'all.
Purple is going down. Wow.
All we need him to do is lose 2. Just lose 2.
That'd be much nicer if they lose the rest and the Cowboys don't have Ezekiel for at least 5 more games. Things could play in our favor.
Yeah, think about it. They still got to play the Rams, the Lions, the Falcons, the Panthers, the Vikings again. And then they play us. It's not an easy schedule for the Vikings up ahead. So there are definitely 2 losses before they run into us. So we could be in pretty good shape still to win the North.
And the tundra should be relatively frozen by the time Minnesota comes to Lambeau Field.
Saturday the 23rd for a nightcap.
Oh my, that's gonna be. I'm just chilly even thinking about it.
No doubt. Frozen all around for Christmas weekend. It's going to be fantastic.
Yes, it is. 1 game at a time, though.
You know what else is fantastic is great feedback from the G-Force. So who's up first this week?
This week, we're going to hear a little message coming to us, much like you, Troy, from behind enemy lines.
Hey, Wayne, Troy. Great game. This is Neil from deep in the heart of enemy territory just outside of Chicago. Great win. I'm not sure what I enjoyed more. The win, John Fox's ignorant challenge, or the fact that the Bears still, well, you know. Go Pack, go.
I do know. Neil, thank you so much for giving us a call. And yeah, that is a tough choice. I'm going to pick the victory, but John Fox and the Bears doing John Fox and Bears things was pretty dang sweet as well, right, Troy?
Yeah, we have this hashtag on my other show that we do for the Blacklist called Tom Gonna Tom, and I think I'm going to change it now to John Fox Gonna John Fox. He's just going to be what he is. Thank you so much for being a moron. So whenever I refereed a basketball game is I always kept a copy of the rule book in my back pocket, just in case a coach wanted to get in my face. I could literally whip it out and say, dude, here's the rule right here. You can read it while I go walk away. And so I can't believe John Fox did not know that if the ball is loose when it hits the pylon, it's a touchback. Oh, well, bygones are bygones. He'll learn his lesson.
If only they would all be as prepared as you, Troy. Things would be much, much easier on them.
But then we have nothing to talk about.
Let's give them something. Never mind, I'm not going to do it. Let's check in on the other side of the coast and see what Andre has for us this week.
Hey, fellas, this is Andre in LA. First off, go Pack Go. Again, big fan of the podcast. So happy about the win, but it felt a little bittersweet. Feels like we're finally getting a running game, but both Ty Montgomery and Aaron Jones both went down during the game and didn't return. I'm thankful for the victory, but I'm wondering where do we go from here, because it just seems like the team cannot stay healthy at all. Eager to hear your words of encouragement. Great and go till I'm dead and cold. Go Pack Go.
Well, Jamal Williams actually had a pretty decent game, so it looks like it with a little more, beating on him a little bit, he'll be able to figure out how he's going to finesse into this. And don't forget, we got Ripkowski, who's just a tank. So if we needed to, we can always go to Ripkowski in a two-back situation if we had to. But I think Williams had a pretty impressive performance, granted not the 4 yards a carry plus that Jones and Montgomery are giving us normally. But for what we needed to get done, he got it done, right? He ran out the time of possession. He got the ball moving in the third and fourth quarters, although a little bit early, as we mentioned, from McCarthy playing it a little bit too safe. But I think he did a fantastic job. So I'm not too worried about Montgomery and Jones being down. And from what I heard from the press conference today was that McCarthy says that he expects Montgomery to be full go by Sunday. So if we have Montgomery and Williams spelling each other, I think we'll be totally fine in the running back department.
Yeah, I heard that as well, so that's very encouraging. Speaking of Andre, you wanted to hear encouraging words. There you go. But also, I wouldn't mind seeing a lot more of Ripkowski this week in particular.
Well, and they also brought up Davante Mays is going to be joining as well. So we'll have Williams, Mays, and Ripkowski as the backfield potentially, unless Ty Montgomery can get back in there.
Oh, that's going to be interesting. We definitely have to keep our eyes peeled. And as of this morning, my DVR, the game's going to be on CBS, does say that I'm supposedly going to get the game this week. But then again, last week, my DVR said I was going to get the Packers-Bears game. And then a couple days later, they're like, nah, we're going to show the Vikings game instead. And I'm like, well, off to Jake's, where I met some Packers fans.
Hot hand, so I suppose that would be one you'd want to put up there for people to watch, I guess. But going to a bar to watch a game is definitely more fun.
Yeah, there was 4 other Packers fans there. 2 of them are originally from Wisconsin. Chatted them up. They're checking out the podcast, so that was a win-win. There was 10 or 12 Packers fans altogether, way outnumbering everybody else.
Agree. Well, it looks like for me, that is a non-starter for the Ravens games here in the Chicago area. The next game I get on the schedule is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers, November 26th. Oh, well. To the sports bar, Wayne. To the sports bar.
Suit up. We also got some emails this week. Troy, you go ahead and take the first one, please.
Oh, from Stephen. Yes, more than happy to. The Green Bay Packers got a much-needed win today against the Chicago Bears, and now bring on the Baltimore Ravens. And I hope that the Packers will be able to do the same thing next week like they did today. The only thing I didn't like about today's game was when the Bears tied it at about 3, and I liked how you said my name. The podcast before the last podcast that you previewed the Bears and Packers game. This last podcast, you didn't even sound sure how to say my name, but it's better to get it wrong than call me late to dinner. All right, Stevie. Also on the last podcast, the song that was being sung reminded me of Dory's song from Finding Nemo, where she just keeps swimming. I don't know how you feel about being compared to a fish 2 weeks from today. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the last time the Green Bay Packers won a game this season, you have to go back to October 8th where they barely beat the Dallas Cowboys. Now, it's sad to think that the next time the Bears and Packers will have off again will be sometime in the 2018 season, either at Soldier Field or Lambeau Field, since, of course, there's no way that they will meet in the playoffs. So we'll have to wait until next April when the schedule comes out for the 2018 season to see when these two teams will play again. Steven, thank you so much for your email.
Oh, absolutely. And now I'm thinking of Finding Dory and Finding Nemo yet again. And yeah, it's hard to believe. Next thing you know, we'll be looking forward to the upcoming schedule release. But with the fact that we did beat the Bears, we now hold a 2-game advantage in the all-time series. So no matter what happens next year, they're not going to be able to take the lead from us.
You remember those days when Lovie Smith was like, if we don't do anything at all this year, we at least are going to sweep the Packers.
Yeah.
Well, we swept the Bears this year. Just saying.
So you got that going, Chicago. Also got an email from Caleb Fisher. Hey, this is Caleb from Merrill, Wisconsin. I wanted to say how great the green and gold were yesterday. Hundley looked great as well. One downside was the fact that we lost Aaron Jones. I really loved seeing the touchdown to Davante Adams, and I'm glad we are able to get past the Bears. Until next time, go Pack Go. Bleed green and gold till dead and cold. And yeah, we were on quite a roll, and we are definitely going to miss Aaron Jones. But like you mentioned earlier in the show, Troy, the fact that we've got those other guys does give me a lot more peace of mind.
Gives me a lot greater peace of mind, too, that we have great fans in our Facebook community group. Because Brett Connor checked in over from the United Kingdom and said, dream scenario. If the Packers go on a winning streak, make the playoffs, make it to the Super Bowl in Minnesota against Martellus Bennett and the Patriots.
Oh.
It was a little frustrating watching him out there catching balls this weekend with like no problem at all. So part of me thinks he just kind of botched the catches on purpose.
That whole Martellus Bennett, yeah. That's quite it. I love the fact of your dream, Brett, that we won, which is fantastic. But if I don't see the Patriots in another Super Bowl ever, would be even better on my side of things.
I know. I actually thinking that in my head. It's like, would I rather the Packers get to the Super Bowl and win or not see the Patriots in there for another 20 years? I may actually pick B for once.
Go Pack Go. Jay Walters also in our Facebook group at packerscommunity.com. Finally back in the W column. Great to beat the Bears and kick off a good start to hopefully a long run of victories. Go Pack Go.
Hey, 7 in a row. That's the new number.
Ride the wave.
Maybe we can make it happen.
Nothing would surprise me. This entire season has been crazy. I mean, the fact that the Eagles are crushing everybody. The Rams are throwing up points like they're nothing. I don't know what universe we're living in. And the fact that if the playoffs started today in the AFC, the Jaguars would be in the playoffs.
Wow. Any given Sunday.
Exactly. Any team.
Or Monday or Thursday.
And then late in the season, Saturday.
Yep.
Just thank goodness there's no Tuesday or Wednesday or Friday games.
Oh, my Lord. You shut your mouth.
I just wish we could get rid of the Thursdays once and for all, other than just the Lions and Cowboys games that are on Thanksgiving Thursday.
I would prefer to move that Thursday game and just make a Saturday night game. And I know that would take away from the college football atmosphere, but just having a Saturday game, one Saturday game a week would be better. Because Thursday, I just don't like the Thursday and Monday games. I just don't like them.
Nope.
Just put them on the weekend. Make it a weekend thing.
Exactly. Oh, now we do have our weekly Monday Twitter poll in our Facebook community group as well as on Twitter. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at PackersFanPod. And this one, it just kind of struck me to ask and throw it out there and just get a true pulse of the fans by asking, how much better do you feel about our Packers after that gritty win? And 23% of the people that voted said they are feeling much better. That was my personal vote as well. I'm feeling much better after how we played this past week. 32%, the highest percentage of votes, went with, I feel a little better now. Let's not get crazy. Okay. 18% said, don't know just yet. It was just great to see the smiles on the sidelines. Aaron Rodgers and others smiling. That was great to see. And 27% said, don't know how to feel. Got to beat the Ravens first. Basically, check back after we've won 2 games in a row.
That was my vote.
Yeah.
If you can put two back to back, especially coming from the road back to home, like the key with the Ravens game is going to be big points. I want to see 30 plus put up by the offense, and then I'll feel really good.
That would be nice. Don Lejeune commented on the Twitter poll and said, I never lose faith in my Packers.
And James Vay said, we have to keep it going. No lightening up now.
That's for sure. It's onward and upward. We are still very much alive. You know, this is not the Cleveland Browns or somehow the Niners even won a game this week. But,
well, speak for yourself on the live part. I mean, there's 11 names on the injury report this week.
That's a lot. That is a lot. Break it down for us. Any surprises in there, Troy?
No surprises, everybody you would expect to see. Ty Montgomery was a non-participant today, as well as Aaron Jones, Morgan Burnett, and Brian Balaga. The good news is that Quentin Dial looks like he's turned the corner, and he was a full participant in practice today. Brent Hundley was fine from the hamstring, so no Joe Callahan freak-out moments coming up this week. Brett should be all good to go for Sunday. Ahmad Brooks was a limited participant in practice, as well as Kevin King, Justin McCray, and Nick Perry. So the LPs will be just fine, most likely, and convert to FPs by Friday. The FPs are good to go. The big ones, of course, to keep an eye on are good old Ty Montgomery there, and, of course, Nick Perry, since he had a pretty good game this week as well. But the funny thing that happened, I thought this was really great, was this whole long snapper situation this year. I don't know if they're thinking red snapper and they just can't fish the right person or something.
No. Yeah, it's been crazy. I never know who's getting the ball anymore, but Sunday was not the best performance by a long snapper ever.
Well, you'll be happy to know that Derek Hart was released yesterday, and coming back to the team once again, please welcome back Mr. Brett Goode. Field goals will be flying aplenty now.
Why did he leave? This year? I just don't know. Well,
I think maybe the people in the transaction office just need something to do.
When I saw the headline that Brett Goode was back, I thought it was somebody just resharing an old story from like 7-8 weeks ago.
That's exactly what I thought too.
It's like, no, he really, wow. That poor guy, he must not know what to think.
Well, he was injured, remember, and that's why they cut him. And so I guess he's better now, so he's back. So good enough for me. Just all you got to do is get the ball on the money, and we haven't been able to get the ball on the money lately. So
yeah, it's definitely not been Mason Crosby's fault.
No, absolutely not.
Whenever they show the replay in slow-mo from the behind the snapper angle, and you're like, yeah, there's not much Mason Crosby could do with that. You, Sir Troy, had quite an adventurous weekend, going out on the town and meeting all sorts of people. What can you tell us about tonight?
Yeah, well, I was in New York City proper this past weekend, and a good friend of mine had mentioned that I should go check out this little Italian place in the East Village over on, I believe it was 7th Avenue. And I was just like, okay, fine, whatever. It's a little bit out of the way. Fine, we'll go check out your Italian place, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's about 4:30 in the afternoon. So I think the game had just ended. And we get over to the Italian place. And as we're walking up, we notice there's this weird, strange sticker on the front door. And I'm like, there's a G sticker. And I'm like, G for Giants? And I'm like, no, they usually go with the NY. I mean, this G is green and yellow in color. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Packers. It's a Packers bar. We're among family. This is going to be fantastic. And they have really, 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 really great Italian food. Now, that is all I know at this point. All we do is that it's a Packers bar. We're sitting down. Stock certificate is actually hanging on the wall from the owner of the place. He's got some Packers memorabilia all around the bar and stuff. And so we're eating dinner or whatever. And I was just like, hey, so, who's the Packer fan? And the lady's like, well, the owner's a Packer fan. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Is he coming in? I'd love to talk to him, because we obviously have the podcast, get another listener. That'd be great. So the owner does come in, and I start having this conversation with Gio, the owner. And Gio starts to show me his tattoo that he has of the Lombardi trophy on the back of his leg. And I asked him, I was like, it looks like there's like 2 fingers that are laying on top of the trophy. Was that intentional? Did someone mess up? And he's like, no. I actually touched the Lombardi trophy. And I looked at him and I'm like, how did you touch a Lombardi trophy? I'm not buying this. And so then he goes and shares with me, and we'll link to this in our show notes. You must absolutely watch this. We'll link to it in the show notes. There's an article about the Aaron Rodgers, we're going to Disney World, commercial that plays. You can see that YouTube clip. We'll have that in the show notes at PackersFanPodcast.com/145, I believe is this week's.
145.
And so when you watch the, hey, Aaron Rodgers, what are you going to do? We're going to go to Disney World. When he says we're going to go to Disney World, if you look immediately over Aaron's left shoulder, you assume it's like some guy who's like an equipment manager or part of the team, like no big deal, right? Well, apparently that's Gio, the guy I'm sitting next to at this bar.
No, wait a minute. What's he doing at the Super Bowl?
So, long story short, Gio, I forget how to pronounce his last name. Like, I don't think it's like Bertoli, but or Bertinelli or something like that. But it's a B, right? So his initials are already GB. So I'm like, okay, that's pretty freaking cool. So then he talks about how when he came over to the States when he was 14, he was watching football and the Packers were on, much like Wayne. In this thing where it was on, so I watched it and I liked it. He said, I really like this concept of all these crazy people wearing no shirts in cold weather. The colors were green and yellow, and because the colors are green and yellow, there's no soccer team or football team in Italy, where he's from, that has green and yellow colors. Because if you wear the colors of your opposing team in soccer over in Europe, you basically get lynched. So this was a way for him to be able to wear Green Bay colors over in Italy and have it be okay, because it doesn't support any green and yellow teams inside of the European Soccer Cup. So he's a Green Bay fan. He goes to a game in Lambeau, and then in the 2010 season, he's like, I got to go to the Super Bowl. And the plan was to actually go with his buddy who's a Jets fan. And if you remember, the Jets were in the AFC Championship game that same year, and they lost to Pittsburgh. So they're basically devastated, like, oh, we can't go now. And Gio's like, screw it, I'm still going to go to the Super Bowl. So Gio goes down to Dallas, and he has no ticket, and he's standing outside the stadium, and for some strange, miraculous reason, somebody gave him a sideline pass to Super Bowl.
Wow.
In Dallas. Right? This is amongst all those people that, remember, couldn't get tickets or were turned away from getting tickets because they oversold and all of that jazz.
Right.
So just miraculously, Gio gets tickets, sideline passes to the biggest game on the planet that he still is like just an infant in terms of, fandom goes. So he's on the sideline. The Packers win, and literally the minute the Packers win, he runs out onto the field. This crazy bearded, tattooed Italian guy running all over the field like crazy pants. And so he's running around, and then when they were doing the passing the Super Bowl trophy amongst the players,
oh my goodness,
that's when Gio was standing right there, and he literally touched the trophy. I'm just like, I can't believe this is actually happening. I'm talking to this guy who was at the Super Bowl, who touched the Lombardi trophy, just on a complete random chance that my friend said that there was really good Italian in the East Village.
That is crazy on both parts. This may need to be our plan if the Packers end up going to the Super Bowl in Minnesota. We don't even need tickets, Troy. We just show up, and somebody might give us a sideline pass.
That would be a fantastic story, wouldn't it? But there's the best thing about this whole situation is that NFL Films actually did a special on Gio and his bar in New York. So we'll have that link also in the show notes at PackersFanPodcast.com/145. You got to read the story. You got to watch the Aaron Rodgers Disney World commercial, and you got to watch the NFL Films piece on Gio. It's crazy. And then, yes, you can go look at the Twitter account where I actually tweeted out the picture of me sitting next to Gio over at Packers Fan Pod on Twitter. I mean, totally random. I couldn't believe it. Such a good story.
That is amazing. Is his restaurant just his last name? Is that the name of the restaurant?
No, the restaurant. Oh, I wish I would have written it down. Like Via del something. But it is seriously is really, really good Italian in the East Village. So you definitely have to check it out.
I think I was kind of in the same simpatico frame of mind because I was having 3 cheese ravioli at the Italian restaurant while watching the Packers game myself.
Where you happen to actually run into some Packer fans that were actually from Wisconsin in California.
And they said, where do you broadcast from? I said, my home studio just down the street. Where's your co-host? He's in Chicago. You have a Bears fan? No, he's a Packers fan in Chicago. So we all got to talk about the podcast. So that's awesome. Yes, I've made sure that I've got the links going in there right now. PackersFanPodcast.com/145.
Definitely check it out, man. It is a fun story. You'll laugh the whole time. Like, this guy's crazy. but it worked out for him. And man, he's a Green Bay fan for life because of it.
And scroll back a few days in our Twitter feed at Packers Fan Pod for the picture of you two guys.
It was great. He's like, shots. Everybody's doing shots.
Wow.
So good.
Now,
so good.
I do need to ask, although it's not necessarily Packers related, how did you get around all these different areas in New York? Did you do the Uber thing, subway, taxi?
Subway and walking, man. It was the easiest thing to do. You get this cool New York subway app on your iPhone or Android phone. You just say, I want to go to this part of town. I'm in this part of town right now. And it tells you, take this train at this stop, transfer at this spot. We had no problem navigating the subway in New York. It was pretty good. We went all the way from 110th on the north side of Central Park, all the way down to the Financial District, East Village, all the way to Chelsea. So we had a really, really adventurous 3 days in New York City this past weekend.
So download that app, and it can be right next to your Packers Fan Podcast app. And I know you have a lot more stories that you're going to be sharing in an upcoming episode of your Blacklist Exposed podcast. If you watch the Blacklist, you're not going to believe the stories coming up.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic. So much fun. Such a great weekend. It was such a blast. And to be able to meet Gio, I think was definitely a highlight. Like, totally knew nothing about the guy. It would have been one thing if we were like, hey, I got to go meet that crazy Packer fan guy, and I got to go eat at his restaurant because I saw the NFL Films piece. I knew zero about this going to the restaurant and then having this whole story come out of it. Man, what a cool experience.
Yeah, definitely check those things out. That is fantastic, Troy. Now, I do have a question for you. How on earth are the Packers going to beat the Ravens this week? Because they're kind of on a rested piece now. Didn't they just have their bye week? Aren't they ready to go? How are we going to win?
The Ravens are terrible.
Oh, okay.
This is another one of those like where they might have a pretty decent defense, but they have no offense at all. So we should be able to keep this one close. But I think the key is that we can't give up in the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter, the defense seems to be a little bit lax the last couple of weeks. Look at the touchdown that they gave up, Devon House there in the fourth quarter against the Bears. So I think really we need to ensure that the run defense actually holds ground in Q4. Now, that starts by, of course, us putting up points on the board to make them one-dimensional. So I think this week it's all about the offense and some touchdowns. We've gotten the ball to Jordy. We've gotten the ball to Davante. They're starting to sync with Hundley. I think this is the week where the offense really opens up and we see some passing magic come from Hundley now that he's more comfortable back there in the pocket. So keep the game number one, put up points so that they're not running the football in the fourth quarter where we tend to be a little bit lax. Number two is the pass rush. Now, Dom Capers has been liking to send 5 into the pass rush, but I think we really need to get done with just the main 4. If we can actually do that, that leaves us with an extra defender in the middle of the field where people like to attack us on third down. So if we can get a pass rush with just the main 4, I think that would be a real big help this week.
Okay. Reasonable.
And of course, number 3, the special teams, man, has to get better. I mean, I think Davis is really close to breaking one for a touchdown, especially with his great returns he had this week. But he also has to remember that inside the 10-yard line, don't touch the football.
Exactly. Don't.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes. And definitely not in the end zone.
No, absolutely not in the end zone. And then don't stand in the end zone and wait for someone to come touch you. It's like, oh, my gosh, what's going on? Oh, in the kicking game, granted weather and all, and we've got rid of the long snapper. But, man, those guys need a 5-hour energy drink or something. And last but not least, the biggest thing is going to be our running game with the emergence of the ground game, and it's giving us more opportunities for Brett to actually see the field. There was a lot of play action in the Bears game. I think that's really helping opening up the pass offense. So we really need to get the running game going this week. Jones being hurt, I think that'll be a big call. Like we said, Ripkowski and Williams are going to be in there spelling each other, and hopefully Montgomery is going to be able to get in there and mix it up as well. But it's going to be very interesting. Otherwise, Randall Cobb and the Wildcat, saw him a couple times during the Bears. Maybe that'll come back too. Lots of different options in order to beat the Ravens, and it should be a winnable game, especially at home this week.
Like you said earlier, it's practically a must-win.
Yes.
Let's get on a roll. If we can win 2 in a row, we can win 3 in a row, et cetera, et cetera.
I can tell you that if we run the table, if we can actually win 7 in a row, and Rodgers is able to play just in time for the playoffs, I think we are a team that's pretty formidable because we've had a lot of adversity this year.
Yeah, and overcoming that kind of adversity just will help us shine that much further. So be ready to buy tickets to get to Minnesota. Of course, for you, it's just a short drive, right?
Yeah, it is. And I heard there's lodging in one of our friends' backyards.
He is so excited about how his Vikings are doing. And he's so excited that Aaron Rodgers is injured that I'm like, Ben. Great keys to the game, Troy. Now, in the Packers dope sheet this week, of course, it's all about the Ravens at Packers Week 11 game, and it's linked at PackersFanPodcast.com/145. Now, the 5-4 Green Bay Packers are home sweet home to play host to the 4-5 Baltimore Ravens Sunday. Again, second week in a row, playing at high noon, 12 noon Central. And it's only the second opponent from the AFC that the Packers have faced this season after defeating the Cincinnati Bengals in overtime in Week 3.
Oh, I know that game.
Yeah, I bet you do.
I was there. It was awesome.
It was awesome. Victory, sweet victory. Green Bay will face 3 teams from the AFC North in its next 4 games, traveling to Pittsburgh in Week 12 and then to the mighty Cleveland Browns in Week 14.
And even though these don't count as NFC games for the playoff contention, these are 3 wins that would definitely help our chances.
It's better to win than not. Captain Obvious. Even that Steelers game, they are so up and down that I'm not.
Anything is possible. And you know what? That one's in Pittsburgh, I believe, right?
Yes,
and that's
it is.
a Sunday night game. So,
yes.
And it's not aired on a Sunday night, so that means we have a chance to win.
Woohoo! Wow. The Packers are 4-1 against the Ravens, including being 3-0 at home. And Baltimore is playing at Lambeau Field for the first time since 2009. We won that game 27-14. And in 4 of the last 6 seasons, Green Bay has gone 3-1 against the AFC. Can I get a go, Pack, go?
Go, Pack, go!
Couple of interesting, notable connections this time around. Packers defensive coordinator, at least this season, Dom Capers. He coached on the staff of the USFL's Philadelphia and Baltimore Stars from 84 to 85. And Baltimore offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach Marty Mornhinweg was Green Bay's quarterbacks coach during the club's Super Bowl 31 winning season. That same year, as his position coach, Mornhinweg helped Brett Favre win the 1996 NFL MVP. And there's a lot more in the dope sheet. Check out the full article the Packers have written for everybody at PackersFanPodcast.com/145. And although there's no rain in the forecast, Troy, it looks like it's going to be chilly at Lambeau.
Yeah, 29 degrees. Could be some snow, though. You never know.
29 degrees, and that's Fahrenheit, so that's cold. And that's a kickoff.
Cold. That's not cold.
That's not good.
That's just becoming jacket weather.
Okay, then. Oh, yeah, hey, lots of chilly sunshine going to be happening at Green Bay. Going to look pretty.
It's going to look pretty because I'm picking a Packers victory this week.
Really? I love that. You're on a roll lately with those victory predictions.
I know. 1-0 since the last time. I'm going to say Packers 30 points because I think this week is the week they break out. Home crowd. It's going to be a lot of fun. Fall football weather. Packers 30, Ravens 17.
Wow, I'd love to see us score 30 points. That's a pretty strong victory, Troy. I'm going to also go with the Packers victory. Packers win by 10, 24-14.
W is a W. We'll take it.
Yeah, that's right. And it's going to be a nice, clean game. And I wouldn't be surprised if it goes the other way and it's Packers 39, Ravens 3. Would not be surprised at all.
Let's just hope it goes to go the other way.
It's not going to go the other way. Not at Lambeau Field.
And definitely not with great fans like all of you, especially like Aiden Cassidy, for channeling one of the all-time Packers greats, supporting your Packers fan podcast at the $12 level over at patreon.com/Packers fan podcast. That's patreon.com/Packers fan podcast. Get in on the fun, just like Aiden, and you can do some cool things.
Absolutely, and good on you, Aiden. Thank you so much for your support. And even after the wild past few months that the folks in Texas have been through, the Texas-only Green Bay Packers Fanatics Facebook group still rocks the Patreon support of the podcast at the Brett Favre $4 level. Thank you, and go Pack Go.
And Diane Burnett is also a Favre-tacular MVP for supporting us at the $4 Brett Favre level. Thank you so much to Diane.
Thanks, Diane. And Jeff Summerfield, thank you to you as well for being a great G-Force MVP supporting the Packers Fan Podcast at the Brett Favre $4 level. Much appreciated.
And always being the foundation of the Green Bay Packers, Curly Lambeau. That's right. And he is also our foundation. That is right. Alex J., thanks so much for your support at the Curly Lambeau level for the Packers Fan Podcast. You are the rock that we all build upon.
Go Pack Go. Thanks, everybody.
You can, too, make us a better podcast by going over again to patreon.com/Packers Fan Podcast. Make the podcast even better. Help us grow. Help us cover costs. We can keep this thing going all the way to many Super Bowls yet to come. You can check out all the different levels of support by visiting PackersFanPodcast.com/support. I mean, just $12 a month. That's like, 3 pops if you're buying them from a restaurant. So definitely go ahead and just set those aside, drink water instead, and send the money our way.
And you'll be healthier as well. Yeah, your support's invaluable. This past couple of weeks, I renewed the Packers Fan Podcast URL, as well as the hosting for the podcast website and the theme that the website is built on. And, of course, every month paying for the MP3 hosting for the podcast episodes that we send out to you. So thanks again, Alex J., Aiden, Diane, the Texas-only Green Bay Packers Fanatics, and Jeff Summerfield for your awesome Patreon support of the show.
Now, to close up, we did have a few Twitter comments as well that Cameron Black said that he doesn't have much hope for the rest of the season, to be honest. But hey, for once, we'll have a high draft pick. I don't think that's the case. I think we're going to be 10-6. Best case, 12-4. Worst case, 8-8. Well, sad to say, that'll conclude this week's show. The unofficial Packers Fan Podcast is not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. However, now is the perfect time to make that happen. So I know we're not Wayne Larrivee and Larry McCarron and all those fun guys up there, but if we could just at least, get some interviews or talk to the coach, that'd be fun. Just let someone know. media@PackersFanPodcast.com is our email to get in touch with us. And don't forget to become one of the Packers Fan Podcast faithful. Once again, PackersFanPodcast.com/support. If you can't support us financially, then just do all of your holiday shopping from our Amazon affiliate link, PackersFanPodcast.com/Amazon. And that way we'll be able to kick back money that way to support the podcast.
It all helps, as does the fact if you download and listen to us on the go with our free Packers Fan Podcast app. We got one for iOS, one for Android. It's the easiest way to listen to the Packers Fan Podcast. And be sure to follow us all season long on Twitter @PackersFanPod and me on Twitter @Wayne Henderson.
And me, I'm @Troy Heinritz. Be sure to join the Packers community as well. That's PackersCommunity.com or PackersFanPodcast.com/Facebook to join in on all the fun.
And speaking of fun, after we beat the Ravens on Sunday, we'd love to hear your fun and exciting voicemails. Go to PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback to get in your feedback and let your voice be heard. Keep the conversations going online in the Facebook group, on Twitter, here on the podcast. Just find a way to be involved. And till the next episode of the Packers Fan Podcast, when we hopefully talk about a victory again, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the show.
Be sure to subscribe in Apple Podcasts as well and leave us a review so you do not miss an episode. And we're coming on home, G-Force. So let's get hyped. Let's get excited. Let's cheer along with Aiden. Everybody say it together now.
Aiden here saying, go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go. Go Pack, go. Go, go, go.